In the studio in Washington is the Senior Director at the Foundation of Defense of Democracies, Behnam Ben Taleblu. Behnam, welcome along. Welcome back to the Late Show Live. Okay, the big question is, are they going to strike America?
That's certainly the million-dollar question in Iran. When you manage to get some voice notes out or calls from Iran, that's all they're saying. Will he strike? Will he strike? All eyes literally are trained on the skies to see if America or Israel will hold the Ayatollahs and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps accountable right now. I got to tell you, some are disheartened by the plays, the last-minute intercepts by some American allies in the region, like Egypt, like Turkey, like Qatar, less so Saudi, which seems to have changed its position.
Well, did Saudi not say the other night they wouldn't allow the US to use their airspace or bases? Is that still the stance?
That is the stance publicly, but also you just had a major Saudi official in Washington late last week where, based on some of the leaks and readouts from those meetings, it seems like Saudi wouldn't mind a strike.
I just feel, and maybe you can fill me in on this, that I think the Iranian protesters, the courageous, brave people on the ground who have literally given their lives in the thousands to this, would feel a little bit betrayed if President Trump did come to some sort of peace deal.
I agree with you 100%. And first and foremost, strategically, it would not be a peace deal. The Ayatollahs would basically be giving a promissory note. So that's why there is no nuclear off-ramp to this humanitarian crisis. Trump drew not one, not two, but between 8 and 9 red lines in the month of January when it came to the protester crackdown by the Islamic Republic. Not a single one of those had to do with the nuclear issue. So to think that we can pivot to a nuclear deal, which, by the way, there isn't really much room for, because Trump successfully destroyed their enrichment facilities back in June.
Let me just play you a clip from the Iranian foreign minister. It's a guy called IRGC. He had this to say on the issue with CNN earlier today. Take a look.
It is obvious to us that there are certain elements, certain parties who want to drag President Trump into this war for their own benefits. And I think President Trump is wise enough to make the correct decision.
Had you seen that clip before?
Yes.
What's your take on it?
Listen, the first thing I'll say is I'm not sure why major mainstream American and Western press are still giving some of these officials the time of day, let alone bothering to post up inside the Islamic Republic. They should be using every single opportunity to grill them on what is the most brutal crackdown from state against the street, not just in the 47-year history of the Islamic Republic, but in the past 2 centuries of contemporary Iranian history.
The big question is, if President Trump does strike, and do you know what? I hope he does, because they've ordered something like 20 more B-2 bombers since that last strike in what month?
Success breeds success.
Exactly. So yeah, put the B-2s to use. But I mean, if and when they do strike and the regime does fall, which many people want, who fills the vacuum? Reza Pahlavi?
Well, this is why we need a political strategy. Whether you are for military intervention or not, the fact of the matter is you have to nest whatever tactic you're using into a larger strategy. And this approach the West is taking, like a one-and-done approach, simply isn't going to cut it. Because the Ayatollahs know that the Middle East is littered with a bunch of military victories for the West, but very few political victories for the West. So that's why it's imperative, I think, for the Trump administration now to actually be considering and even go ahead and meet the Crown Prince of Iran, Reza Pahlavi, as well as, of course, to begin to think about the day after. Consider very seriously this thing called the Iran Prosperity Project. Find ways to integrate Iran back into the community of nations, all of which begins once you flip the script on the Ayatollahs and empower the most pro-American and most pro-Israeli street inside the Middle East.
And just for context, for viewers or listeners who are tuning in, Reza Pahlavi is the exiled Crown Prince who, his father was the leader.
The late Shah of Iran.
Yeah. He was in Washington, D.C., Pahlavi, the other week, saying he's got a plan, he's got a transition team ready. It's not a permanent position, but he can be a transition leader until democracy is restored.
We just need a bridge to a post-Islamic Republic future and have the people decide, monarchy or republic.
Iran, the supreme leader, has warned of regional war if the U.S. attacks. What does that mean, regional war?
This is now Iran's supreme leader, who's also the commander-in-chief of that country, re-upping a line that we heard from military folks and political folks for the past week and a half, which is that if America strikes, whether it's limited or not, whether it looks like Venezuela or whether it looks like Iraq, whatever happens, they're trying to threaten a region-wide war. The challenge is the Islamic Republic might be successful. They might draw blood. And here they're forgetting that the one consistent red line Donald Trump has stood by is if you spill 1 ounce of American blood, we're coming after you. So the Ayatollahs think this is a deterrent. This actually might be the inducement to a much larger conflict.
So when they say regional war, I mean, who would ally themselves with Iran if America struck?
None. They would just expand their targets beyond Israel.
Right. Okay. I mean, I guess that you could...
No one wants to get aboard a sinking ship.
No, you could say they're doing that anyway, though, with their sleeper cells all across the West. You've had the head of MI5 in Britain the other day saying 20-odd terror attacks have been foiled, linked to the IRGC. The UK is just about to prescribe the IRGC as a terrorist group.
And that has to be stepped up.
About time, by the way. You know, America did it in, 2019?
2019, and the EU just finalised this decision.
Yeah, I mean, great, good start, but that in itself is a joke, because you had Keir Starmer, I keep making the comparison, Keir Starmer running joyously as a virtue signaller to recognise Palestine as a state, almost scuppering the peace deal. Marco Rubio said it, the Secretary of State. He said Macron and Starmer got up and made a big deal of recognising Palestine, almost ruining the peace deal between Hamas and Israel, and yet Starmer has taken so long to recognise the IRGC. Just on that point, do you know what the reluctance to that has been?
My guess is it's some war between the Home Office, the Foreign Office, and the Prime Minister's office. Either way, all of these debates about it's an arm of a foreign government. Well, if an arm of a foreign government is acting like a terrorist, I think the least we could do is actually call something that looks like a duck, that quacks like a duck, that walks like a duck, an actual duck.
Indeed. Well said, Behnam. Thanks very much. Appreciate your company. Hopefully we'll catch up again soon.
Thank you
very much. Right.